here is that all of us here, we try to maximize potential. That's our business. That's what we do. And I'm working on mastery skills all the time, and it's just through the vehicle of football and through a kid's participation in football to build the skills that a kid can use, forever. And the other thing, just like your business, that ours is a performance-based business. 12 times a year, we're going to go out in front of hundreds of people, and they're going to see, okay, coach, what do you got? What's this team got today? How are they going to play? When you're principal of the school, at the end of the year, okay, what were the SAT scores? How'd they do on the AP tests? What percentage of kids are going on to colleges, and what type of colleges? And so it's we're in the performance-based business here. That what we're trying to do is to create results, create positive results. And I think that the point here, and what I'm going to go through here this morning, is that over the course of these 46 years, that I think I've come upon an approach, and it's really an approach that I developed early in my career, and then have honed it, the last throughout my career, and I think it's and it's just as you've talked about here, building a championship year, building a championship team, and that's what this is all about. The first thing is you've got to have a plan, and I knew that early on. And as I sit in front of you and I look and I say, it's like standing in front of the first group of kids, it's like, all right, who are your players going to be? How are you going to create this team? You've got to have a plan. And it's got to be a very, definite plan. It's going to be what is going to determine your actions here. And so there are a number of things I had to consider. Is that did I want just to build a winning team, or did I want to build like an enduring program, something that was going to be long-lasting? The whole concept, a temporary, versus a permanent. Because I'm convinced, and a lot of coaches do this, I could have a great team every 3 years. And that's what a lot of coaches do. Coaches come in, okay, I'm going to play all the young kids, all the sophomores, and I'm going to coach them for 3 years. I'm going to allow them to play for 3 years. By the third year, hey, they're going to be pretty good. And they end up, great team, and then they go back to the same cycle. But see, my feeling, I had two different things that stuck in my mind. Number one, I want to win every year. I didn't want to win 1 in 3 years. I wanted to win every year. And I knew we could win every year. But more importantly, I didn't just want to build a championship team. Because, I was part of a great school system, and this is, first and foremost, going to be an educational program. And that's what I wanted to give kids, a program that is really, and what our program has become, that it's a means to an end. I'm teaching lessons to kids that they're not going to get, in most cases, in that classroom. So it's a unique experience. See, the other thing now is that it's not like the NFL. I can't go out and draft kids. It's not like the colleges. I can't go out and recruit kids. Or the private schools can go out and recruit kids. And, I need one of these, one of those, one of these, and, you put that group together. For me, my challenge was whoever walks through the door. Those are the ones that I've got to take now and figure out, how am I going to make them players? How are we going to make them players? How are we going to create a team? And for me, I knew that when you want to build something, the key thing of building something, you've got to have a great foundation. You've got to have that foundation on which then you can build most anything. But you've got to have those rocks and those pillars there that are going to support, the whole structure. A solid, tested foundation. And something that was going to be long-lasting, something that was going to be there in 1966, and it was going to be there in 2009. And I knew one thing. I couldn't just have a program that was going to be based upon talent. Because some years you have it, some years you have a lot of it, some years you have very little of it. And so I needed something other than that. I didn't want, as most programs are, like hills and valleys. Hey, good year, bad year, mediocre year. No. There had to be an answer. There had to be a solution here. Something long-lasting, something enduring. I wanted a program where I could make the Brian Clemmers of the world. There was a place, and I knew there's a place for kids like that. We have kids that come through our doors and that end up being players for us. You would look at them and you would say, this kid's a football player? I mean, I see freshman kids, 90 pounds. They hardly come up over this table, but the kid, he wants to play. It's such a tradition in the town. They want to play. Son, we can make you a player. And we believe that. We believe it. I had the opportunity about a month ago. A fella, actually the father of one of the kids I coached, he is one of the main guys in charge of the whole new project down at the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan in New York City. And there they have constructed one building, the one building where his office is. They are now building the big Freedom Tower there, and he is in charge of building the third building, which is like maybe a third built now. And he took me in there and he explained to me the whole operation. And the thing that stuck in my mind, and why Lower Manhattan is such or New York in general is such a great place to build big high-rise buildings, is you get down far enough, there's bedrock. He said it's even better than granite. I forget what the name of it is. But that's where they root the foundation of all these buildings. And so they can pretty much do, anything that they wanted to do. So that's what I needed. I needed some bedrock. I needed something that I could go down and I know it was always going to be there, and that was going to be the basis of this entire program. And so we forgot talent. And where our focus was going to be now is that on the kid's attitude, a kid's approach, and his commitment, his willingness to commit. And the beauty of that, we felt, was it's attainable for all. Anybody can have those qualities. Not everybody has the God-given talent. So what do you do with those kids? Now, hopefully, some of our more talented kids also have the attitude and commitment. But that had to be our culture. That had to be the thing that there's no negotiation when it comes to that. No negotiation. Zero tolerance. See, so it's the talented kid, non-talented kid, the big kid, the small kid, the fast kid, the slow kid, even the ugly kids. That there's a place for them here. There's a place because you can accomplish, you can meet our criteria here. No one was going to be denied. But you got to believe it. And you got to sell it. And what is it they are committing to? What do I mean when I talk that? Because with kids, you got to define exactly what it is. They want to know, what it is. It's like the kid. Is there going to be a test on this? Yes. That relentless work ethic. The relentless work ethic. Where a kid is just, more, raise the level. As he learns to work harder. He learns to work better. It's a skill that you can teach kids, in terms of their work ethic. This whole concept of mental toughness. And what I mean by that is that the kid who has the ability, to reach inside and to find that next gear, to think, when I'm pushing myself as hard as I can, no, you're not. You got more inside of you than that. And that those kids that are willing and able and capable to reach inside and find, that next gear and to find, what they can do. And I'll often conference with kids and I say, out of practice, you don't really seem to be, pushing like I think you should be. And a lot of times a kid will think that he is working as hard as he can. And so a lot of times it isn't because they don't want to, but you got to get them out of that comfort zone. And that's what it is, because some kids get comfortable with just here, and you got to get them up, to the next level. And this is a great term that I actually got from Bob yesterday when we had a discussion. I love this, that this unconditional obedience. This whole idea that a kid is going to do whatever it takes. What do you need, coach? What do you want me to do? Because as I tell them, I know what I'm doing. I can lead you to the promised land. But you got to listen to me, and you got to do exactly as I say. You got to trust me. You got to believe that we're out for the same thing. You got to believe in me because I believe in you. Let me give you an example of Brian. And I still tell this story today to kids that I coach. And you talk about a kid who wants it, who is committed. And I can remember vividly, like it happened this morning. It was a hot, probably in those days, September day, because you couldn't practice till September. One of the first few days of practice. I mean, it had to be like a 90-degree day. I just remember, I can feel it, how hot it was that day. And, we're all in these, and back in those days, you wore these heavy shirts and stuff. Nowadays, they got all this micro whatever. Well, these kids are in long sleeve, heavy cotton shirts. I mean, it was ridiculous. And we're out, and the practice field we were on is like all dirt. I mean, dust is, as I tell my wife, I'm going to die of brown lung disease, of all the dust that I've ingested all these years. So anyway, Brian, first couple of days of practice, in those days they wore these old high-top shoes that the school actually provided. You know, none of them fit right because, you know, it's like, oh, yeah, that fits, Brian. Get out of here, you know, because you only had so many pairs of shoes. So anyway, he practiced, and he developed these blisters on his feet. I mean, they were the worst blisters. And if you've ever had a blister and you're trying to walk or to run, never mind work out and practice, I said, Brian, you're not going to be able to practice. You're going to have to take a couple of days off. At least you got to take today off, and you know you can't be out there doing all this stuff. Okay, he walks out of the office, and I see Brian come walking out. He's in his socks. He says, Coach, I'm practicing in my socks. That's it. And the kid practiced in his socks, and that's what he did for a couple of days. I mean, did that make an impression on me? Or did that make an impression on the other kids? Like, holy cow. Don't give me your tales of woe that it's a little hot here and so forth. But you understand, that's the attitude. That's the level of commitment, you see. Talent would become the last criteria on which we judge players. Certainly it comes into the mix, you know, at some point, but it's way down the list, because the talented kids, you know, it's equal commitment for all. Equal commitment. Non-talented as well as talented. And so the expectations are same, you know, for the talented kid. In fact, even more. Even more, because it's easier for them than it is for, you know, some of the other people. So, you know, what we're looking for are kids that are willing to step over the line. You know, hey, I'm going to make the commitment. I'm with you, Coach. And you know, we look for degrees and levels of commitment. And we understand that in a lot of cases, like a 10th grader, we coach 10th, 11th, and 12th all together. Our freshmen are separate. That we give a 10th grader a little bit of slack because he's kind of learned his way a little bit and figure it out, and it takes him a little bit. By the time a kid becomes a junior and senior, I mean, we have no toleration. I mean, we look very fine and judge their level of commitment. I have this exercise where, you know, I'll keep kids posted in terms of, you know, when we meet with kids, you know, I have 3 columns: the plus column, the 0 column, and the minus column. And all of you are in one of these columns. The plus column is, hey, you're there. That's the type of kid that's going to play. That those are the kids, you know, the you know, high level of commitment. The kids in the middle, the 0 kids, I don't know, they can go either way here. You know, they're either going to jump up into the plus column or, you know, to go down, fall back into the minus. And then on the minus column, I mean, I'm not even going to pay attention to those kids, because, you know, they're never going to play for me, you know, unless they change, you know where they are. And the point I try to sell the kids is the fact that the more kids we get in that plus column, the more successful we're going to be. And at the end of the summer, when I can kind of sit back and evaluate myself, that all what we've done up to this point, I have a good idea how this team is how they're going to do, because I've been able to measure the level of the commitment of the individuals and the group. And you see, a lot of times, what we have to do, we have to educate our parents to this. Because a lot of times, some of the most talented kids are going to be standing next to me during games. They're going to be on the sideline. They're not going to be out there playing. And people, you know, your fans, they can understand this. Why is that idiot not playing? I mean, this guy, you know, 3 years ago in junior league, he was nobody could stop him. He was the greatest kid, and he is. I mean, it's a coach's nightmare, a kid with talent but no commitment. He goes out and whips everybody at practice, and yet I can't play him. not if I'm going to be true to what I've told everybody else. I mean, you know, I've been there a while. They give me a little bit of slack, but even at the end of the day, I mean, kids are going to look at me and say, hey, you're not doing what you said you were going to do. And I never allowed the talent to cloud my judgment. A game was never going to be more important than the team. And when your kids know that, I mean, that's a powerful lesson for kids in terms of changing behavior. We came up with this concept of the herd. We became known as the herd. The high school are the Lakers, the Mountain Lakes High School Lakers. But the football team became the herd. And I wanted something that was unique to us. And see, what it actually is, what we're doing with this concept, and we wear this right on our helmets, we have the letters up on our helmets here, is that, you know, we're advertising, we're reminding kids and reminding everybody else, you know, what we're based on. Because what the herd stands for is hustle, enthusiasm, roughness, desire, dedication. Those are our watchwords. Those are the things that we're going to hold kids accountable for. And that's the bedrock. That's the approach. And we constantly want to serve, you know, this serves as a reminder here to our kids. You know, it becomes a part of our creed here. In other words, as soon as we say, you know, the biggest compliment that I can pay to a kid, I say, you know, you're a real herdsman. And that's the highest compliment that I can pay to a kid, because he knows exactly, you know what I'm talking about here. And the other part of this, our main slogan became, and we have it right on our stationery and all the stuff we put out, is the pursuit of excellence. The pursuit of excellence. And the key thing here being pursuit. Not excellence in itself, but the pursuit of excellence. And I sell to kids all the time, is pursuing excellence in all things that you do, because excellence is a habit. You don't just do it during the football season. You do excellence every day, and that's what we look for. You pursue excellence in all things all the time. And that's what you're going to be held, you know, accountable for, you know, in this program. Because we want everybody, even the kid, the talented kid, hey, you can be better. That's what we want. We want everybody to be the best that they can be. And see, the genius of the coach and the genius of you people who work with people, that's quite a redundant, you people that work with people, is making kids realize what they are capable of, convincing them. And see, at least with high school kids, I'm sure it's not much different with adults, that most people don't really believe that they can do it. They don't have confidence in themselves. They don't know how a lot of times. So it's easier not to try. And see, what my job is, and probably one of the things that I do better than anything else, is to convince kids that they can do it. In other words, I can see a kid, every kid that I coach, and I can look at him, and as I get to know him, I have a vision for that kid. I have a vision of what he can be and how he fits in our program. And that's what I talk to kids about. I said, this is how I see you. This is what I see you doing. Really? You know? I had a kid this year who was like one of those little 95 kids, the freshman. Sophomore year, he's now up with the varsity. This kid, Drew Holland, I would take him out of drills because I was afraid he was going to get hurt. He was just meek. He was undersized, small. But, you know, he kept working, tireless, working. Junior year, a little bit better. The perfect kid for us. He came a nobody who became somebody. Kid who didn't have any of the skills or talents, but he acquired them. And going into a senior year now, I mean, the kid hadn't played a minute of varsity football. And I know he was nervous because his father gave me a call and said, boy, the kid is just so nervous. He doesn't think he can do it. He doesn't think I fit in. He doesn't fit into our plans. I said, are you kidding me? So, I do this with a lot of kids. I sat down with that kid, and I told him, Drew, you're starting for us. That's it. So from this day on, I met with him in June. I said, from this day on, don't you even worry about that. Don't let that cross your mind. You're starting. You're my guy. For all these reasons. So you're starting. And that's, the kids are just like, I mean, they're just so great. I mean, they never disappoint. You treat kids the right way, they never disappoint. So, I'll sit in conference a kid, and I'll tell him to close his eyes, and, we'll visualize together, how do you see yourself? What do you want to do? Visualize some specific things. What do you want happening here? Because I know, hey, you've been working. I know you want to be a player. I know you want to be part of this. And so to get them, over that hump, that's what we do. That's what we need. That's what we need to do. The next point here is this whole thing that, I love this, that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Well, I can make that horse drink. I might need the help of a few of you people here. There's a big guy like this. I mean, we grab that horse and stick his head down in that water and hold it there long enough. Believe me, sooner or later, he's going to drink. But if I had to do that twice a day, that's tiring, I mean, that is so tiring. So again, the genius of the coach is make the horse thirsty. And that's what we do. I don't want to grab kids kicking and screaming. And so what I work very hard on with kids, and more on an individual basis with kids, to get their mindset, the whole idea, and the key transition for me, for a kid in our program, when he makes the transition and sees going from having to do it to wanting to do it. As soon as a kid makes that transition, he wants to do it. Now we're on the same page. Because those kids then, you can walk away from them. And you know what you're going to get out of that kid. Because he's as committed as you are. And he's going to be obedient, and he knows this is what coach is looking for. Now I can move on to the next kid. And I always, I make examples of these kids and say how valuable that they are. Because not only do they set the example for other kids, but now I can take my resources someplace else. It's like Brian and his company. I mean, to try to give everybody FaceTime and to sit down and have the benefit of his conversations. I mean, to be able to have people that can do that, and to be able to know that people, that that he can walk away and he knows what he's going to get from those people. You know, especially in a company like this, you got guys all over the country here and Geralds all over the country. But see, I want to make sure that kids understand, because a lot of times they'll say it and they don't really realize what they said, and you all go crazy, like, oh my God, you know, and you know, jump on a kid and you know, that's it. You know, for all the years that I was in charge, you know, in the off season when a kid isn't out for another sport, you know, we have a weight room, and you know, we want kids. Hey, we want kids to get stronger. If you're not big, be strong, and even if you're big, be big and strong. So, and plus, more importantly, it shows their level of commitment. And you know, I've never run the weight room where I went up and said a kid he had to be there, or kept attendance. Because what I want to do, I want to see who showed up. Those are my players. If at this stage I got to convince a kid about that, you know, where you been? Look around you. You know, people often ask me the question, you know, why do you win every year? We haven't had a losing season since 1984. And I said, oh, easy. We play winners. We win because we play winners. I mean, I'm not dumb. Yeah, I sit down at the poker game. I'm not going to go all in. And, you know, I got a pair of deuces in my hand. So, what our quest all the time is that to find those winners, to look around this room, look at my team here as I walk in for the first time, and to see, you know, hey, I got to figure like 15 of them. I can get by with like 15. If I can get 15 kids that I can count on, we're on our way here. And that's what I tell the kids. That's exactly what I tell them. And see, the other thing that you need to understand is that winners are not necessarily the most talented kids. Now, the other thing that you got to understand is this, and this is another thing that's so important here to what we do. To find the winners, you've got to evaluate them 12 months out of the year. Because as we went back to what I said before, excellence is an all-time thing. It's an everyday thing. We expect them to be excellent. Those are who your winners are. They're excellent in everything that they do. I can't pack up, and especially now after I retired from the principal's job, I still coached football for 10 years. I couldn't just say in December, hey guys, see ya. You know, I'll see you in the late spring, beginning of the summer. Because I was on a search, once this season's over with, I'm going to search for the new winners. Because in our program, everything starts over. Once the equipment's collected, the slate is wiped clean. You got to earn it again. And so that gives a kid who maybe, oh man, I didn't handle this season well. Hey, he's got a clean slate, and I firmly believe that. You can start over, and you're going to be judged on from what you do now. And that's the last thing that I tell kids, after the last football game that we play. And the process begins. And so how do I find these winners? Because, see, to find the most talented kids, give me 2 days out on the field. I can pick them out. Actually, I don't even have to do that. All I have to do is ask the kids, hey, who are the 3 most talented kids in your class? Boom, boom, boom. They know, because they've been playing with these kids all this time. They know who the most talented kids are. So to find the winners, the one thing that I do a lot of, and it's very, very, very time consuming, is that I sit down, I conference every kid. I mean, I'll have conferences, close to 100 conferences. Because I'll even conference the kids who are leaving our program. Have like an exit conference and so forth. But I mean that's a lot of work. That's a lot of time. But see, that's my sacrifice, and the kids know that. I'll be sitting at a meeting with a kid and saying, it's a beautiful day. I'm looking out the window, and I'm saying, and I'll tell the kid, I says, you must think I don't have any life. I mean, why am I sitting here? Why am I taking this time and sitting here? And because I want him to process this and to realize, and this is the price that I pay. I'm not going to go out and train and lift weights and do all the running and stuff like that, but this is my sacrifice. This is my commitment. And see, a lot of kids interpret that too, which is even better, is the fact that because you care about me. That's like a symphony, when you hear that, because that's really, at the end of the day, that's the message. Because as soon as you have a group, and you know this, I see it in this group. By the way, you guys could win for me. I could make this a winning team, as Brian is doing. I mean, from what I saw last night, what I've seen and the people I've spoken to, because I'm a big observer. I'll go over to the high school and just sit and observe kids in the cafeteria or in the hallway. I have a 2-day retreat down at my shore house for just my senior kids, and I love to just sit and watch them interact, because I learn more about kids and about the team than anything. And I've seen you, and I look into your eyes here, and I see it. I see it. I feel it. I mean, don't you feel it? All right, let me get on here with the other thing about, so I mentioned talk to the kids. Another thing is observe them, look at their actions around school and in the community. I know everything. I know everything about a kid. I talk to the other coaches. I go watch the kids in other sports. I mean, I sit at basketball games. I sit at baseball games, lacrosse games, because I want the kids to know, number one, I care about them, and I want to see them and support them. And, I'll talk to those coaches and to see, all right, give me the rundown on this guy. What type of season he had? Any problems with this kid? And keep on top of it. And then the biggest thing is I monitor their grades closely. Because to me, that says it all. To me, one of the highest correlations of success is when I have a group of kids that I have, and I put these percentages right out on our bulletin board, which we keep in the middle of the school all year. I'll publish the honor roll, merit roll, and I'll underline all the football kids. I'll put how this percentage compares to what we did last year, and I'm always on kids, because number one, that's the main reason they're there. So I'm being a good educator, which I am. But number two, to me, an A student, an honor roll student, that's a conscious decision that kid has made. Nobody can convince me otherwise. And see, those are the kids that I'm looking for. Excellence. They've selected excellence. And they're willing to do what it takes. And see, so that's another thing we really applaud. And see, for you, or for me, and what I sell to kids, this is a 4-year process. The kids don't get it. It's like this is the same stuff. I listen about, all right, the person takes this seminar, but that's not the end of the road here. You've got to move on. You've got to move on here. I mean, there are great things down the road for you here. And that's what we sell to kids. This is a process. Because as soon as you get here, hey, congratulations. Now, let's get up here, will you? Because now I know you're capable, of that. And so the whole idea, it's a process. But at some point, you see, the rubber will hit the road and we'll tell a kid, you're being a hindrance, you're not being a help now. And the other thing here, at this point, you got to understand is that I have to be very careful who I endorse. And what my endorsement is putting that kid on the field. Because at the end of the day, that's where all kids want to be. So I have to select very carefully those kids that I'm going to endorse. And as I tell kids, you want to play? Force me to play you. That's what happens. Our starters, hey, this kid's got to play. 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 That's what they do. We see a kid, we see the way, we were evaluating him all the time. He's done everything at every level. Hey, he's one of ours. He's one of ours. And those are the kids. I mean, I'll kill myself to make that kid successful because that sends the message out, because that's what I want everybody to see. Holy cow, this kid that nobody thought could be a player, look at him. That's why we have between 60 and 70 kids. I mean, we can't even coach that many kids. But see, they know there's a place for them. They know that, hey, yeah, nobody's discounted. Okay, so now I've got this group of winners here. All right, I know who the players are. You're all players. You're all players. It's going to be a strong team. I mean, we can put people in on waves. We'll tire the opponent out, man. We'll come at them. We'll come at them. I'm not so sure about you, though. So see, the next step here, now you see, you got to have a goal. You got to get these guys focused. You got to get them, you got to have a mission. You got to have a cause. Something now that they can rally upon. Something that they know what they're making the commitment for. And see, what I'm able to do, because I'm running, and it's like, and it was interesting to hear, like, you run programs for, like, people coming out of divorce or something like this. There's a need. They see a need. There's a goal there. There's a focus. And see, that's what I need to do, is give them a focus, give them something here, so that they know, hey, this is what we're working towards. And I love this picture here. And this is our team here. It's a coordinated effort, is what it is. That the littler fish, the less talented fish, hey, they work together in a coordinated effort here. That's what it's all about. And I can give a half hour to my team on this one picture here. Like how did they all get in that position? How do they all know that, hey, I'm the tail, I'm up here, and I mean there's so much in that. The other thing that we came up with is that is because we're going to look for a goal where we're going to coordinate our efforts here, and what we came up with this idea, again, it's like a stupid idea when you first think of it and you do it. You don't know whether it's going to work. We came up with this whole idea of a flag. And I think it was my second year in 1967 when I said, you know, because we were looking, because my first year in 66, we were 2-6. Terrible. I made so many mistakes as a coach. You know, I just didn't get it. And, you know, I keep saying, man, I'd love to have that team back and coach them one more time. But anyway, we came up with this idea of a flag. So one of the first things we do when we meet the kids at the beginning, just before we start practice here and put the pads on and so forth, and my wife has made the flags for 40-some years. Every year the flag is different. But it's just, you know, as you would picture a small like banner or flag, it would be different shapes with a big H on it for herd and the school colors, orange and blue. And this whole idea, you know, we have this whole ceremony about, you know, the flag and what it means. And it's the whole concept. There's going to be one goal, one mission here, you know, one heart. You know, many hands, one heart. That's a big thing to us. You know, there's one flag. Everybody is under one flag. There's not two flags. There's one flag. And that becomes our standard bearer. Every practice, the kids take it out, and, you know, we might designate kids who are going to carry the flag down. Every game, it goes with us. And, you know, when I retired, on our poles, we had 44 flags. And see, because the other concept, as you know, I stayed there and became successful, the whole tradition thing. I mean, people, kids, they love tradition. They love to be part of a tradition. And the idea being, hey, you're not the first ones. Let me bring in Brian Clemmer to speak to you. He's been there. And I'll bring in kids to speak. I'll give them examples of kids. And you know, to know that, hey, it's not unique to them. And they take a great comfort and sense of knowing what it takes. You know, I was talking to a kid the other night on the phone because he wanted me to call and go over with him what I was going to speak about. A kid who I coach who's now finishing up at Colgate. And he said, you know, you have no idea the fact when I saw those flags as a kid and would watch the team play, he said, I knew right then, you know, what I wanted to be, and this was a goal of mine, and that's what we're trying to do here. And you see, because I think I mentioned it before here, because what I'm looking for is to get the group to link arms, and we go together in battle. You know, if you're going to kick and scream and resist, hey, get out. You know, we don't have any time for this. And that's what we do. I mean, there's a great feeling to that, a great feeling. So, getting back to now the goal. And to us, the goal is 12-0. Every year, our goal is 12-0. We want to be the best. We want to be undefeated. We want to beat everybody. We want to win the conference championship. We want to win the state championship. Because what I'm looking for kids who have the courage to be the best. It's hard. It's hard to have that courage and say, I'm going to strive to be 12-0. I'm going to strive, I'm going to do everything that it takes here to be 12-0. But see, my thinking is we had to set a high standard. And plus, you don't go in with the idea, well, we hope to have a winning season. I mean, when I was getting ready for my heart surgery a number of years ago, I looked up at that doctor and I said to myself, I hope he's not content with being 5-4. Yeah, I wanted a doctor who wanted his goal was to be 12-0 every year, man. And he was going to be doing all the work and the seminars and stuff that it takes to be 12-0. And it's the same idea. I mean, why would you seek anything other than that? Because I firmly believe that that concept, and it's the idea that, and we came up with this whole idea of this song, "Dream the Impossible Dream," and to me, that ticked my mind, and that to me, it said it all. And we play this song. The last thing that we meet Friday nights with our kids, the night before the game. There's no football discussed. It's all this stuff. It's all, we do a lot of crazy things to get kids focus in. And it always ends the evening, though, by playing this song. And the last thing we do is we walk out of the locker room, we all get together, and we play this song. Because to achieve all that is possible, that you must attempt the impossible. I mean, there's so many phrases there, the glorious quest. And I mean, that's what we're on. And if you're true to the quest. And the interesting thing is, in 44 years, we were only undefeated 6 times. Only 6 times. And that's why it takes courage. Because you know what? You're probably going to be disappointed. You're probably actually going to fail in terms of that goal. But the other side of that coin, 10 years, we lost only 1 game. And another 13 years, we only lost 2 games. So and our last losing season was 1984. So you get the idea that if you reach high, you'll never know. You don't know. And you don't know what you can be. And that's what I tell the kids. You don't know. And that's why it takes courage, because losing will hurt. I mean, to see kids with tears streaming down their eyes and just distraught because they didn't get there. But that's powerful. And losing, can be a powerful emotion. Because, hey, you got to pick yourself up out of the dirt, brush yourself off, and hey, the sun's going to come up tomorrow. And that's what we tell, because in life, that's what happens. That's what happens. But when you see the team, and I visited a couple of kids that I was close to, even though I wasn't coaching this year, the day after they lost in the state final. I mean, these kids were distraught. The team, when I left, I left them a 25-game winning streak, 2 straight state championships, and they lost in Giant Stadium this year, 23-21 in the state finals. I mean, these kids were distraught. And I went over and spoke to a couple of the kids, and I said, I'm so proud of the way you feel. I said, do you understand why you're so distraught and disappointed? Because, you've put so much into it. If you didn't give a crap about this, you wouldn't feel bad. And when I would face a room after a loss and guys are there, even the kids who didn't play, the kids who had no stake in this, and they're sad because their friends lost. You see, I like the idea is that, it's the coach. You got to provide the vision. You got to make it crystal clear. You got to clarify it, because you don't want the kids to be overwhelmed with it. You have to take that burden off of them. And it's like I tell a kid, I like it. A kid stands on the riverbank, and you look down at that river, man. You see that river flowing. He knows I jump into that water, I'm ending up down there. And that's what I want our program to be. That, hey, once you step over the line, that's the only thing acceptable here. And so everything in our program is designed around 12-0. Because you want to be 12-0, you don't have any margin for error. So you better pay attention, to all the details that you need. But see, what one of the things here that we want to teach here is that the higher the goal, the greater the sacrifice. That's one of the key components that we pound on kids. Hey, everybody wants to be 12-0, but are you willing to pay the price that 12-0 takes? And we pay the price. And every day, like I'll bring them together after a particularly rigorous workout. I'll tell them, just stop and let's just feel this moment. Feel this incredible work. You know how you feel right now? You can't do another sprint. I say, understand why we're doing this. Think ahead to 1 o'clock on Saturday. One of the things I've done, I'll give a kid like a book, like when we meet with kids in gym. I'll give them a blank book with 75 pages in it. And I say, all right, you got 75 days before we start practice or before our first game. On every page is one for every day. Write down something that you did that is going to help us, win that game. On what you did to, in terms of your commitment, to what we want the season to be. So a lot of things like that. Because the other thing is that, we're on the kids that this doesn't just fall out of the sky. You choose 12-0. You choose 12-0. And because we want them to believe and walk away with the idea that you can create your own destiny. No doubt in my mind. And it's like, Brian talks about, creating a samurai sword. Those things just don't run off the line. These things, the work and the care and the heart that goes into that, and that's what 12-0 is. Wow. What you have to do, to approach that point. And I want kids to feel that and to understand that and be proud that they're doing that. And it's the whole concept here that, that's what the leader does, is that you got to give them the blueprint. You got to show them how to get there. You got to create the path. And this whole concept of mental toughness here. Another one that we often talk to kids about this, like making deposits. Because someday you're going to have to go up to the window and say, look, I got to make a withdrawal here. And you don't want to walk up and say, oh, you don't have anything in your account. Oh. So we talk about making deposits, and we'll say, hey, boy, today we made a big deposit. Because what we want to do, and what I have found, that this gives kids confidence to know, hey, I've made the deposits. I've prepared. And so when I need to call upon that, it's going to be there. Because we have this big thing, the idea that there are times during the season where you've got to really reach down and you've got to find that something extra special. In other words, we're going to be put to the test today. Some games you just know you can go out and you can get it done. But there are other games, maybe 3-4 times during the season, is that hey, we're all going to be tested here today. And what becomes a symbol for us, as soon as the kids walk in the locker room on Monday and they see a red heart on their locker, they know exactly what that means. It's one of these special times where everybody's got to reach inside, and we're going to practice even harder this week, and come game time, look out. Because you're going to have a pack of mad dogs here, on our side of the field here. And, we may during that week, hey, we're going to do some extra here. We're going to do some extra this week. But they all know, they trust in the fact they can reach down and they can find, they have the confidence to know they can find a greater effort. And see, this whole idea that what we're selling is you got to put off the instant gratification. Our program isn't about instant gratification. I tell kids, if that's what you're looking for, you're in the wrong place. You showed up at the wrong meeting. Because what this is a long-term commitment that you've got to make before you're going to get any type of payoff here, in this program. But you see, I think that what we've done here, that what we're doing is we're teaching life lessons, we're teaching life-changing lessons, and we're giving them a roadmap for success in anything that they can do. I mean, parents love me. They love this program, and that's why we have so many kids. I mean, they make their kids come out because they see the value, because they realize this just isn't a football team. And my best supporters and recruiters are other parents. They'll say, you got to get your kid in that football program. You know, like when a kid's coming up ninth grade, you got to get him in that football program. And because they see the value and what the value that it has for all kids. And you know, the number of kids who, when they write their college essays, talk about their experience in our football program. I mean, it's gratifying. What I'm going to finish up with here, and the last thing, and actually to me the most important thing I'm going to talk to you about now, what I've learned. And I would say in the last 10 years of my coaching career, this is where I have almost totally put my efforts. And because we were good. Every year we were good. But I knew that we could be at the great level. And it's like the rule of the final inch, that the hardest thing is to close the gap in that final inch. That we had to get to another level. And it had to be a part of the program so that we knew we could count on it every year. And what I did, and although we had always been selling this message, I wasn't doing a good enough job, and I wanted to now, as I said, make it my focus, is this whole concept of the power of one. Because to me, as it says there, you know, it's the fuel that allows common people to attain uncommon results. And that's what we are after, are uncommon results. And see, especially in the game of football, it's the ultimate team game. I mean, 10 kids can do it right, and the 11th kid doesn't. You know, you got no play, or the guy run for a touchdown. It's so integrated, and there's so, you know, much connection into it. And, you know, this whole idea that, you know, the total's got to be greater than the sum of their parts. As I said, we are dealing with kids who walk through the door here. And what we're looking for is to be greater because we're doing this together. As I think it was Brian, you guys talked about just a while ago. This whole idea that, you know, when we work together, I mean, it's awesome. As the quote there says, it's the same spirit. That's the key, getting the same spirit, the same approach. If everybody has that, the same belief, that's the glue that's going to bond the group. And it's this whole concept that I know you've probably talked about, that you use in your work and you see in your own organization here is the synergy. And how the way I explain this to kids is the fact that if you've ever ridden a wave, you know when you get to the top of that wave and you catch it just right, and then all of a sudden it just like propels you. That's what synergy is. It propels you. And I believe, as I really alluded to before, you feel it. I sit and I'll just sit and look at a kid, and look in a kid's eyes, and you see it. You feel it. You get a group together. And sometimes you don't. And when I feel, hey, I'll tell you, something's not right here. Something's not right. I know it because this is what I do. I feel it. It's the concept here that you feel good, you play good. I read a quote, it's your inner happiness that fuels success, and I really believe that. And we talk to our kids about love. We really use the word love instead of the energy. And there is. I mean, kids, talk to each other, man, I love you. And, I always tell kids, man, I love you. And it's that feeling, you see, that we have for each other. Powerful. Another way that I can tell if we have it is when I put an average kid out on the field, and all of a sudden I'm looking there and saying, how is he playing that way? Look at what he's doing. It never fails. But, he's riding the wave. And, the other kids want to see him succeed. And he doesn't want to disappoint. You build those bonds, and somebody alluded to it before, you don't want to disappoint. I mean, I was in fear of Sona before I came here, like, hey, I didn't want to disappoint her here. Because, she's been so gracious and given me all this information. I mean, look at what you set up here today, to make me feel at home, like, hey, my profession being a football coach was meaningful, and, I did a couple of things. Hey, this is important to me. I mean, it brings a tear to my eye. That hey, you would extend yourself in this way, because what you're doing is you're putting an importance upon, what I do. And isn't that what we all want here? I mean, you're assigning me value. This is probably the most recognizable thing in our program. Again, I've got like an hour talk on this whole visual right here. But it's the whole concept that the reason they get in formation is that's how they're going to get to where they can go. And if they don't do it, they're not going to do it individually. Most of them are going to starve before they get to the feeding ground, so they work together. So a big thing to us is, hey, stay in formation. And it's beautiful. And the more you have, the faster they can go, the further they can go. They work on the lifting power. It's like you guys that ride bikes. The whole concept of drafting here and so forth. And the other thing is that, see, they're sharing a common direction. They all have the same goal here. And every once in a while we're out in the practice field in the fall, and here come the geese flying over in the V4. Here we go crazy. And all the kids are like cheering and so forth. And we talk about, number one, they're all equal. They all have value there. They all have a job to do. And plus the other thing, the toughest one is the bird flying the point. But they don't ask him to do it all the time. They all rotate. And that we'll often use that expression to kid, hey, you fly the point for a while. You do the tough work. You set the pace out here today. And so it's like you guys do in your seminars. You create a language in which we communicate, and symbols. Like anything else, unity is elusive. I just don't stand up in front of a team and say, okay, guys, starting today, we're a team. Starting today, we are unified. That's like me saying, okay, now you're strong. No, if you spend the next 4 months in the weight room, maybe you'll be strong. It's the idea you got to work at it. You want to have unity, you want to have a strong, tight, powerful team, you got to work on it. And you got to work on it every day. And everybody, has to commit to it. You got to construct it. And this is a couple of the things that we do here. Common goal, which I've really talked about. Everybody has a common goal. Common suffering. That's a big one. Everybody's got to feel the pain. You're carrying a log. Everybody's, hey, you got to do your part. You don't have the luxury, to pretend you're carrying but not really carrying. You know that? Everybody's got to do their part. Common sacrifices. And see, a big one for us that we latched on to early in our program was this whole concept of training rules. And our school district has always had a policy about training rules. You can't drink, you can't smoke, you can't get in trouble with the police, et cetera, et cetera. But most teams, they don't follow it. And it's kind of like a joke. Well, we kind of hang our hat on that. We hang our hat on that because it's a beautiful common sacrifice. And let me tell you, in high schools today, going out and drinking and socializing, that is a major component to high school age kids. And it's something and that's another reason why parents love me, because they know during football season that we're on top of them. But we tell kids that's our sacrifice. And I spend a lot of time working with kids. Why? Number one, it's illegal, but to go into all the thing and the idea of the team, what gives you the right to think that you can go out and do this when, hey, these people, they're not going to do it. How can you place yourself, above the team like that? And every Saturday after the game, the last thing that I tell kids is, hey, watch what you're doing, watch who you're hanging with, watch what's going on around you. Because I tell them, if there's anything close, you're gone. You're done. There's no discussion. Oh, it wasn't my beer, or, they were all smoking marijuana, but I wasn't. So I told them, don't even put yourself in that situation. 2 years ago, before our state final game, on a Wednesday night, I had this kid who, I've been working for a few years, and he really had a great season for us. And he was our last kid at 8:15, because that night we had gone down to the Meadowlands, the Giants Stadium, to have a practice. They allowed us to go down there for an hour. And so we were getting out of the locker room at 8:15. I remember I looked at the clock, and I spoke to this kid, because I was never convinced with this kid. And lo and behold, I get a call the next day. Less than an hour, I think at 9:10, what the police report said, he was found with another kid. Fortunately, not a team member. He wasn't. That was one of the problems. He was hanging around, but he was the problem. And so, I met him, sat in the office, and this was Wednesday, and I think we were playing Saturday that time, and he was done. Give me your equipment. And he had played 11 games for us. He was arguably our best defensive player. And we were facing a great team, and the kid that I put in for him was about 4 notches below him on the talent level. But we ended up having a great victory that night. But the audacity that he would do that to me and the team. But the point is, that's it, And the beautiful thing, if I had done anything else, the kids would have been angry at me. And I think that's the key thing. So all these common things. Another thing that we believe strongly in is the whole top down. You build a team from top down, not bottom up. because I believe in modeling, and it starts with the coaches. I cannot sit down and have intimate meetings with 60, 65 kids. So what I do is I just work with the senior kids. You know, maybe I've got 20 kids, and I start meeting with them in January, and that's all we talk about is team building, because I found one of the big weaknesses today is that there's very few leaders, student leaders in school, and the reason there aren't, there's no more sandlot. Kids are shuffled around in all these programs. They're not making any decisions in those programs, whereas in the old days in the sandlots, hey, all right, you get out there in right field and don't touch the ball. And hey, there's a conflict. We solved the conflict. There were no adults. And you know what? It all worked. But kids had to emerge. Kids had to take charge. Nowadays, I mean, how often do you ever see kids playing together? And so I got to teach the skills. And, you know, I take them on this retreat, and starting in January, I'll have them at my house and just sit around and we start talking. Okay, what are the problems? I want to hear what are the, because all I'm concerned about is their group. Because if I can get 20 guys together, singing from the same song sheet, speaking one voice, believing in one thing, who's going to take 20 seniors on? Nobody. It becomes easy then. But I've got to have them. I can't have 19. Because there are kids on the team, they'll find that weakness. They'll find that one kid. And at that point, when they become seniors in our program, if I'm not sure, if I have a question, they're gone. Because now they're influencing, you know, I'll tolerate a kid as a sophomore because he's got to learn a little bit as a junior. But now, no. And I'll disinvite kids. I mean, I'll sit down and have a conversation with a kid. You know, it'd be better off if you didn't play this year. You know, a kid who's slated this year, who was slated to start for us or a year ago at center. I tried in the worst way to convince him, don't even come out. He ended up, but you know, I think it kind of hit him side the head, and he ended up, you know, doing okay for us, etc. But you understand the point. Is that so the point is I have to train them. You know, I'm a firm believer in the whole, you know, lead dog theory. Yeah, I mean, those dogs that are up in the front of those sleds, I mean, they're trained to be that. I mean, they're the leaders. They hook them up there. They're the ones that set the pace. They're the ones that keep the vision. They're the ones that inspire the rest. You know, hey, let's go. We got to go faster. I mean, that's what those dogs are trained to do. And see, that's what I'm always looking for. And I'll talk to kids about this. Hey, you're one of my lead dogs. Or I'm looking for a lead dog, you know. And this whole concept, you see, of top down, because and the reason that we have so many kids is that because I learned long ago, be careful how you treat your seniors, because that's the one thing everybody has in common. Sooner or later, everybody's going to be a senior. So they're looking, you may take the sophomore kid and put him in, but even he's wondering, you wonder what they're going to do to me when I'm a senior. So we've turned it around. We work the other way. Ty goes to the senior. In fact, we'll play a little bit lesser of a senior just because he's been a good soldier for us. He's done all the right things. And at the end of the day, you know, that's what's important. And the other kids know that. Most of our kids don't start until their senior year. I mean, how great is that? They hang out and they do all this stuff, and they don't get the payoff until their fourth year. But now we're like brothers. I mean, we're like, man, those guys, you know, I'll go to the mats for those guys, and they will for me. I mean, they're so happy to now it's their turn. And that's what we sell them. Now it's your turn. All right, what type of team is this going to be? Because every team is different. You know, it's like dating a different girl. She's different than the old girl. What I said with the old girl, no problem. I say with the new girl, you know, she whacks you or something or yells at you. So it's different. And every year, see, we work on creating, that. But once we get our seniors set to go, we feel that we can head anywhere. And see, what I tell the seniors is this, is that number one, like if we have kids who are like returning kids, some kids who played maybe as a junior, I tell them flat out, I say, look, you know you're going to play. That's not the issue with you. So what you do, you now have the luxury to concentrate on the team. I want your focus on the team, not whether you're going to play or not play. And what you need to do is to focus on getting everybody else on board. And I tell my star player, hey, your responsibility is to inspire other people. I mean, everybody respects talent. I mean, those people jump right out at you. I mean, if you went over the most talented kids on your team, because they'll turn everybody. And that's what I'll tell kids. Hey, your job is to make everybody else better. Give them the confidence that you have. As I get seniors together, I tell them, figure it out. I mean, you're not dumb. Sit down, get them talking, figure it out. And I tell seniors this, as I say, we have two choices here. It can either be your team or my team. I feel the best situation, and we're going to have the best success if it's your team. But if that's it, well then this is what you've got to do. And that's what I train them to do. And it's the idea of trusting them and giving them responsibility. During our summer workouts, like our kids work out maybe 35, 38 times over the summer. We divide them up. We put our seniors in charge of, like, we have what we call squads. Like, maybe we put 2 seniors or 1 senior with a group of 20 kids. And their job is they set the workouts. We've trained these kids on what we want them to do, give them some material. But they're there. They do it. They figure it out. They take responsibility. I want the other team to see them up front. And they're the ones that are making the decision. Hey, get your backside in gear. Let's go. Because I want them making the tough decisions. And hey, you don't think those kids aren't going to get in great shape when now they got to go out and lead the workouts, for the other kids. And they love the responsibility. They love the trust, you see, and they love the fact that, it becomes theirs. Because you know yourself, I mean, it's a basic concept. If it belongs to you, you're going to fight a lot hard for it. And that's what we're looking kids to do. How can we get that next a greater effort? And as I said, remember, this whole thing is we're looking to propel ourselves from just being good, to being great. The other thing here, and I alluded to a little bit before, is that we give everyone value. We're very careful on how we're treating the least talented kid on our team or the kid who doesn't play, because we want everybody to have value, because that's what's going to give us the synergy. And we talk a lot about the kids who are out on the field playing, their responsibility to the kids who aren't playing. And we do like these testimonials the night before the game and do some things where, I mean, how great is it? A kid who's not going to get the play, he'll walk up and hand a heart to a kid, who's going to be out there in the fray all this time and say, hey, would you wear this heart for me? And would you represent me, out on that field? And, the kids will tape it to their pads and stuff like that. But it's this idea here, or to get up and talk about, like all these kids here. What does this kid mean to you? And I mean, it's just dynamic feeling. It's love. It's energy. And I mean, you know, playing the game becomes easy. I mean, you know, that gets to be the easy part. And it's all about, you see, how they treat each other. I mean, I'll conference kids, and I'll have a young kid, and he'll say, gee, do you realize a year ago so-and-so gave me a ride home from the workout? And as I tell them, it's the simplest things. Hey, acknowledge each other. It drives me nuts. I'll see two of our players walk down the hall, and they pass each other. They don't acknowledge each other. I mean, I'll flip out. Or, hey, they're in the cafeteria. You know, they'll invite the young kids over. You don't think those young kids would do anything now. I mean, you got to understand the dynamic of a high school here and so forth. But see, and that's what we teach them. Hey, it's all in, you know, how you treat the kids. You know, it's a word here. It's an expression there, type of thing. You see, what I try to do is that I try to create disciples. I'm always looking for disciples. Somebody that I know is right in sync with my message, that I have full trust in. And I'll talk to the kid about this. And see, I utilize, and I'm always on the lookout. When I start meeting with kids after their freshman football season, that's the first thing that I look for. Or what are those kids that stick out to me that I say, hey, this is a kid. This is a kid that I know is going to be one of these kids. And I start to work with them right then, you see. And, you know, I'll tell a kid, I said, do you realize that your senior year, you're one of the kids that I would see as a captain of this team? I mean, but, you know, that's how I feel. And, you know, I want them to realize here, because you see what you're doing. If I can win enough of those kids over, because then they go to work on the other ones that don't see it quite as clearly. Although, you know, in the final years that I was there, everybody knows the rules of the game. So they don't show up because they know, you know, the standard that they have to adhere to. And I love that because it's a special program for a special breed. That, you know, there's just a couple of points here, and I think I've run out of time, haven't I? All right, let me, all right, I'm going to do one more lap here. And I'll just go through these, and I wrote these up here so you can see them. I love the story about, you know, they go up to the stonemason. The one guy says, oh, yeah, I'm just laying stones here day after day. And the other guy says, I'm building a beautiful cathedral. And it's just a different, I mean, that's what we're looking for. You know, people, you know, who have that vision and that they're part of something great. And, you know, it's something that it's going to take time, just as this process here. You know, greatness just doesn't, you know, happen, you know, in a day. You know, it's like the Chinese bamboo plant that, you know, they plant that thing and it hardly grows for the first 10 years because it takes 10 years for the roots to get established. Then it grows 100 feet a year. And that's what we're doing. You know, we're building that foundation, but sooner or later, you know, if we stay true to it, it's going to pay dividends for us. And see, the whole idea of building a cathedral, we want kids to keep the eye on the prize. What is it that we're trying to do here? Don't lose sight of that. And, you know, we do a lot with goals. You know, I think goals are good because they organize action, and plus we can hold kids accountable. And we look and say, all right, this is what you did. I mean, that's, you know, this is your body of work, you know. I use this a lot with kids, like, you know, especially young kids. I'm sitting down meeting with them, and, you know, I'll ask them, how do you grow roses in the winter? I mean, I want beautiful roses in the winter. And the kid's looking at me like, what are you talking about, you know? And I said, have you ever been out on Old Denville Road? The next time you're out there, look over there. You'll see these, what do they call them, greenhouses out there. I said, they grow roses there in the wintertime. And how do they do that? They control the culture. They make them out of glass to get the sun in. They're watering them all the time. They're feeding them. They control totally the heat in there. They control the culture. You control the culture, you're going to control the behavior. And that's what we do. I talked about that. This is key, and something I've really, is so important here, is the fact that to endorse and support the behavior you want. Don't worry about the behavior you don't want, because I found myself at one point in my program worrying too much about the lousy kids and the bad kids and trying to change them. And what happened, all my energy was being put there. I had negative feelings about the team, and there was all that negative energy around me, and I come to believe, hey, focus on the good things. I believe strongly in that whole critical mass theory, that there's a balance. I really learned this during my high school days as principal. Hey, concentrate on the good kids, support them, and before you know it, you have more good kids. Same thing with teachers. When I first started, a couple of these teachers would drive me nuts. I mean, how can they be like? I don't even want to don't deal with me anymore. I'm not going to give them any of my attention or any of my energy. I'm going to support and put all my energy on the good people. And sooner or later, they'll want to be like that. And so that's a key component here in operating a team. Because and this is what you people are all about here, this whole positive energy flow. You attract what you emit here. It's as simple as that. I think I talked about that. Caring. Any evidence you can do, that I can do to show kids that I care about them. Coming to watch them in different things, keeping in touch with them, sitting them down, giving them my time. And, I write notes. Parents will tell me, oh, the note you wrote 3 years ago to this kid, we still have it up on the refrigerator. And I write a note because I want kids to realize I got to get it, I got to sit down, I got to do it, I got to get an envelope, I got to address it, I got to put a stamp on it, I got to get it to the post office. Hey, I could send them a text message. That's what some of my younger coaches do. Oh, yeah, I texted the kid. But the point is I care enough that I'm willing, you're worth that time. You're worth that effort to me, because I'm going to be asking a lot from you. This is again, you people are very tuned in to this type of thing, because you got to, when they're not doing what you want them to do, you got to let them know that. Otherwise, they're not going to know it. And one thing that I've always believed in, I believed in it when I was running the school, I believed it up until my last day of coaching. You've seen, like, you build a house of cards, and you never know as you start pulling the cards out when it's all going to come tumbling down. And I am a firm believer, you think you have unity today, you could lose it tomorrow. You think you're on track today, you can be off track tomorrow. And so the people who are responsible, a la me, you better be working on that every day. And you've got to keep your eyes open, your ear to the ground, because it's that elusive. It can come and go, that fast. And so my thing is always, take care of the little things, and the big things take care of themselves. We're big on details, in our program. A simple thing that, again, and a number of people, have commented to me, and a number of other coaches, like when they play the national anthem before a football game, I have all the kids line up in a straight line, numerical order, standing at attention, all standing a certain way, standing motionless until that song is completely over with. And see, it's a very visible thing, like, hey, we believe in excellence in all things that you do, because it's the littlest thing. If I tell a kid, I tell them to put a piece of tape on their locker with their last name on it. Now, how many kids, they'll go up, I go back in the locker room, some kid's got to put his nickname on there. Or, I just love stuff like that, because I make the point, hey, there's one way to do things. Because that's the way our game operates. When I say go left, are you going to go right? The play's a disaster. So it's that, like we said before, it's this unquestioned obedience. Hey, the coach wouldn't say it or do it if I didn't feel it was important. That's what I tell them. And everything's important. We start a meeting at 8. Even with parents. And, of course, it's a suburban, wealthy community. An 8 o'clock meeting means 8:30. No. They know now they're going to miss half the meeting. Because I walk in, I watch the clock, stroke of 8. When I was in charge of graduation at the high school, graduation was 8 o'clock. As that clock went to 8, the band started, and we were underway. And it's amazing how people, they got used to that. And that's what I want, because I want our kids to feel, hey, that's how you become good. That's how, excellence is a habit. It's like anything else. And so that's what we try to train kids. The last thing I'm going to say, and thank you so much for your patience, is, I meant to mention this earlier, we have here, as one of our symbols, is the buffalo. And the reason we selected the buffalo, again, everything in our program has a reason. Number one, it's a pack animal, and that's what we're looking for. I love the story about the lion and the tiger. It's a pack animal, and it's the older, stronger, most fit buffaloes take care of the weaker ones. Like you see them in a storm, all the big guys are outside the ring, outside ring, and all the weaker ones, younger ones, are on the inner ring. And they're protecting, it's this pack mentality. The more capable ones are protecting the younger ones. And, when a buffalo goes off, when a buffalo gets real old and knows, my days are numbered, I'm going to die, they go off and die alone. And the reason they do that, they don't want to hold back and endanger the rest of the herd. And there was this great video that surfaced a few years ago of just what you were talking about, but it was a group of buffalo who, one of the younger ones had slipped down in the stream, and it was like alligators or crocodiles started coming out. Oh my God, a couple of these big buffaloes swooped in, and they like pummeled that alligator and, saved the one from being killed. This was beautiful. You want to play this in front of the team, and this whole idea. That's what we're about. That's what we represent. We're going to take each other. Kids love this. Hey, I got your back. That's a big expression in our program. Hey, don't worry, I got your back here. A kid makes a big mistake. Hey, don't worry about it. We'll get the next one. And that's what creates it all. This whole play to win, and it was mentioned here, Brian. I liked what he said here. You got to go on the attack. Too many times, kids sit back hoping not to lose instead of playing to win. It's just a mindset, a mentality. Like, hey, go. You got nothing to lose. And we have to constantly check ourselves on that and really, keep kids in that frame. And the last thing here, you just got to keep at it. You got to keep preaching, keep selling the message, selling the message. As I said, we do it to our kids 4 years in a row. We teach them the same play 4 years in a row. We figure by the time he's a senior, he's going to get close. But it's the same. It's the same. I mean, you realize how hard it is to get 11 kids to do the same, what they need to do on any given play. I mean, to run 5 plays well in a row, believe me, the work that it takes. But this is what it's all about, and this is what you guys do. You're preaching, you're selling the message out there, throughout the world, every day. And if ever there's a time for this, I feel the time is now. As was alluded to here, and you know that more than I do, because your exposure is much greater here. And love you guys, and thanks. For making me a part of this. I mean, this is a dynamic group. I mean, I don't have to be a genius to figure that out. But, I know teams, I know groups, I know dynamics. And as I look through here, as I tell kids here, everybody's got a story. And that's what it's all about. And appreciate what you have and realize the strength that you have in each other's. I mean, when that song was playing, he grabbed my hand. I mean, I lost it. I mean, how powerful. I mean, the energy that you can all bring together, and it's amazing to me that you guys haven't seen each other. A lot of you, you haven't been around, and to come in and to have this type of thing. You don't know how special you are and how remarkable, really, that you are. And credit, to Brian, because, as I said, these things don't just fall out of the sky. They're created. And it takes a lot of work. And, just a few days that I've spent with Brian, and, I worry that sometimes he looks like he's carrying the weight of the world around, and he thinks so much of this and the mission and all you people. I know he doesn't want to let anybody down, and it's hard. It's really hard, and that's at the end of the day. That's really why I gave it up. That I created a monster, and then I had to keep feeding it. And it was time for somebody else. Whether it was a right decision, a wrong decision, it was a decision. But hey, I wouldn't be standing here if I was still coaching. So this has been remarkable, and I thank you, Brian.